Before we get into today's episode, I need to make sure you know about something happening on Thursday, March 26th at 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm hosting a free live training called How to Build an Investment Portfolio Without a Financial Advisor or Living Like You're Broke, and I want to see you there. Now, let me tell you exactly who this is for, because I don't want you to talk yourself out of showing up. This is for you if you haven't started investing yet. If you've been thinking about it, maybe even researching it, but you haven't actually pulled the trigger, this webinar is for you. This webinar is for you if you have a 401k or an IRA or a retirement account, but you honestly couldn't tell me what's happening inside of it. You know that the money's going in, but if I asked you right now, what is it actually invested in? What are your fees? Is your allocation right for your goals? You'd hesitate. If that's you, this is for you. And this webinar is also for you if you have a financial advisor that you sit across from, but you find yourself nodding along and you don't fully understand what they're telling you. You don't know if you're on track. You don't know if the money's doing what it's supposed to be doing. You don't even know if the money's going to be there and if it's going to last. Listen, you're a smart woman and you feel like you should know this by now. And I want you to know that this is not a you problem. This is a financial education problem. And that's why I'm doing this training. So if any of this landed, if any of this resonated with you, I want you to register. The link's in the show notes. It's March 26th, a Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. It's free and I want you in the room. Now listen, if you're working and you can't be there live, I want you to register anyway to get the replay. It's the only way that you can get the replay. And I want you to know I've already received questions that people want me to answer, and I'm going to be answering them live during the webinar on Thursday, March 26th at 7 p.m. Eastern. So please make sure you register, because that's the way you'll get this information so that you can get started right away. Welcome back to From Middle Class to Millions. I am currently prepping for a trip to Vegas that I'm going to be taking in a couple of weeks. I am an expert speaker at Shalene Johnson's Camp Be More, and it's going to be the week of the 16th of March, and so I'm getting all prepared for that. And as a result of that, I was obviously thinking about midlife women, and I was thinking about their money. And so from that came this podcast. So I want you to know I came up with this idea for this podcast. I have a ton of notes because, as you know, I'm never winging this stuff. I'm always preparing so that I have the accurate information and details for you guys, because I want you to be successful, right? Obviously. And I want to make sure that I'm giving you the correct information. So, you know, my background is in research and science, and so I need to have accurate data to provide you with, and I need accurate information. So if you hear my notes in the background, think nothing of it. Just know that I've done my work and my research. So I have a question for you guys. I want to know if you've ever looked at your direct deposit and thought, all right, I make decent money, so why does it feel like I have nothing to show for it? And I'm asking this because I've been in this position before, and I know what that feels like. Because maybe you're making $70,000, or maybe you've crossed over the 100K mark, and you're making six figures plus, and you're paying your bills, you're saving a little. You don't feel like you're an exceptionally big spender, but still something feels off. Like you feel like there's a gap between what you're earning and what your financial life actually looks like. And I wanted you to know that that feeling actually has a name. And today I want to talk to you about it, because I want you to know exactly why it happens and what you could actually do about it. Okay. So we're going to cover 4 things today. The first one being the W-2 trap. The second one being the 401k mystery. The third one being the income versus wealth gap, and why your money stage. Number 4 is why your money stage matters more than your age. All right. So we're going to cover all of those things. It's going to all make sense to you. Don't worry. I just want you to stick with me, and you will get an understanding of why you have this feeling, what the name is of this feeling, and what you can actually do about it. You're going to walk away with knowing what you can actually do about this actual feeling. All right, so let's start with the W-2 trap. And I want to be really clear with you. When I call it the W-2 trap, I don't want you to think I'm anti-employee, anti-job. All right, this is not about quitting your 9 to 5, because I'm never the one that's going to tell you to do that, because I made all my money while working a 9 to 5. All right. Not everybody needs to be an entrepreneur, should be an entrepreneur. It's not necessarily the way to go. So this is not that. So if you're thinking I'm not listening because I'm not leaving my job, I don't want you to leave your job. What I'm talking about with the W-2 trap is what happens when your paycheck becomes your entire financial strategy. All right. So this is what that looks like. You're earning money, you're covering your expenses, and you're saving a little, right? And then you do that again next month. And then you do that again the month after that. And you do that again the month after that. And your income goes up over time along with your lifestyle, because your lifestyle goes up along with it, but your net worth stays flat. Or worse, it goes down and it's in the negative. All right. So what do I mean by that? Okay, let's define what net worth is. And if you already know that, you can skip ahead a little bit, but your net worth, I feel I need to define this because I never want to assume that people understand every single thing. That's what happens when folks then become overwhelmed and they shut down and they just feel like the financial world is throwing all of these terms at them that they don't get and assume that they should know. And that's to blur you and confuse you. And that's not what we're doing here. All right. So let's define net worth. Net worth is the total value of everything you own. So think your savings, your investments, your retirement accounts, any property, any assets, all of that, everything that you own minus everything that you owe. So you subtract all of your debt, like your credit cards, your student loans, your mortgage, your car loans, everything that you owe, you subtract. And everything that you owe is called your liabilities. So if you think of all of your assets, which is everything you own, minus everything that you owe, your liabilities, that equals your net worth. Okay? So your income is what you earn each month, but your net worth is what you've actually built. So for a lot of women, the income number looks great. That's the $160,000 you're making, the $120,000 you're making, the $180,000 you're making, the $250,000 you're making. But the net worth actually tells a completely different story. So when I'm talking about the W-2 trap, we've been taught to, go to school, get a good job. We've been taught to chase the income, right? Get that job, get that income, make more money, make more money, make more money. And there's nothing wrong with that because income actually matters, right? But the income alone doesn't build wealth. And there's another layer that most people don't talk about. As if you're a W-2 employee, you're taxed before you ever see the money. Like, that's why we have this gross, which is your salary, the number on the paper of the offer letter you signed, and then your net. Your net is what you catch after Uncle Sam comes in and takes out the taxes. So it's even more critical when you're a W-2 employee that you're doing something very intentional with the money that you catch in that net, the money that actually lands in your account. So I want to give you an example of like two women who have the same salary. So let's say both women are earning $90,000 a year. They live in the same city. They have similar expenses, similar lifestyles. And then 5 years go by. So we're going to have woman A who did what she always did. She paid her bills, very responsible, saved a little, lived her life. She probably has let's say $8,000 in savings. And she has a 401k that she hasn't really looked at since retirement. And 401k, we can look at any type of retirement account here. It could be a 401k, it could be a Roth IRA, it could be the government's retirement account. It doesn't matter. Just think retirement account. But for all intents and purposes, for this podcast, I'm just going to call it a 401k. Okay. Woman B made one different decision 5 years ago, and she started investing. Okay. Remember, same city, similar expenses, similar lifestyles, both earning $90,000 a year. But woman B decided to start investing 5 years prior, and she picked an amount, like, let's say not a lot, let's say 200 a month or 300 a month. So like we're thinking $100 to $150 out of each paycheck. But she was consistent, and she did that for 5 years, and she understood what her money was going into. And so 5 years later, she had this growing portfolio, and the assets were working for her even while she was sleeping. So both women are going to work. Both women are earning the same amount of money with the same amount of expenses, making the same, amount, same lifestyles. But one person, right, woman B, has money building in the background. That creates a completely different financial position, because the difference isn't in the income, it's in the strategy. So know that your income will get you to where you want to be, but it's not going to get you to wealth all on its own. Does that make sense? All right. We're going to tie that in to the next thing that I mentioned we're going to talk about. And that's the 401k mystery. All right. Like I said, we can use 401k, IRA, whatever you want to do, but we're going to call it 401k. So when I mention a 401k to most of my clients, a lot of them say, okay, yes, I already have one. But when I ask them, do you know what it's actually invested in right now? Do you know your fees? Do you know your allocation? And if it makes sense for your goals? Allocation is just what is it invested in, right? And do you know that it's like not just the default that someone selected when you were onboarded? Do you actually know what's going on in your 401k? And for most people, people can answer, yes, I have a 401k, but after that, everything else becomes really foggy. They can't answer the other questions. They don't know enough about it. And again, this isn't your fault. This is not something that you should know inherently, because nobody sits down and explains this stuff to you. Nobody explains how it works. You start a new job, you are onboarded, you enroll in your 401k, you pick a percentage, usually the match, up to the match, and the money starts going in there. But what I want you to understand about this 401k, although it is one of the most powerful wealth building tools that's available to you, most people are barely using it. And that's because they weren't taught about what's going on inside of it. So there are three things that I want you to know about your 401k. And it's very important. And listen, if you have to pause this and go grab a pen or a paper and some paper so you can jot these down, then I want you to do so, because this is really important stuff. And this is the stuff that I wish I had known at the very beginning when I started working, when I started enrolling in my 401k, because it would have propelled me a lot farther along a lot sooner. All right. So these are the three things that are worth knowing about your 401k. First of all, your default investment, right? If you didn't make a specific election when you enrolled, your money likely went into a target date fund. All right? Something like 2045 or 2050 fund. You know, those funds that might sound familiar to you. These aren't bad. Okay, these aren't bad funds. They're convenient, but they're not personalized. So they don't know what your goals are. They don't know what your risk tolerance is. They don't know when you want to retire. They don't know what you want. They don't know anything about you. So it is a default fund that you are kind of automatically enrolled in, but it may not be serving you. So you may be in a default fund right now and not even know it. So I think it'd be worth your while to go and check that out. The second thing that I want you to know about your 401k are the fees. Every single investment inside your 401k has what's called an expense ratio. And that's a fee that's taken out automatically every year. Now, for some of them, it's a 1% fee, which sounds really small, but over the course of 20 to 30 years, that can cost you tens of thousands of dollars. I think in my last week's episode, I talked about one of my clients, Tina, when we looked at all of the fees that she had in her various accounts. And we calculated that over the next 10 years, if she did nothing, she would have paid, I think it was $140,000 in fees. Now, why? That's $140,000 that she could have reinvested automatically. And it made a tremendous difference in her account, right? So know that compounding works both ways, right? It can grow your money, but it can also cost you, right? So most people have no idea what they're paying in fees. So that's the second thing that it's really important to know about your 401k. And I'll link that episode below in the show notes if you guys want to go back and listen to it, because it's really alarming how much money gets seeped out in fees through these expense ratios. And of course, she also had a financial advisor, so through a financial advisor as well. Now, the third thing that I want you to know about your 401k is your contribution rate. So a lot of folks set their contribution to whatever was required to get the employer match, and then they never revisit it. Right? Like they never go back. And I want you to know that the employer match is just the floor. That's not a strategy. Okay? That's just the beginning. You can contribute up to $24,500 in 2026. Now, don't freak out. I never contributed up to the match in my 401k. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm just saying that there is up to the ceiling in my 401k. I never contributed up to the max, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't. It means that it's available to you. But the match, the very beginning of your contribution, that is just the floor. So know that there's a lot of room for you to grow in within your 401k. So the 2026 max is $24,500. If you're 50 and over, you can do the catch-up amount, which is $32,500. And if you are between the ages of 60 and 63, you could do the super catch-up amount, which is $35,750 for this year. Most people don't contribute that. Most people contribute a fraction of that, which means that they're leaving significant tax advantage growth on the table every single year. So again, your 401k is a starting point. It is not a retirement plan. And the only way for you to take full advantage of this is to understand what it's doing. You can't manage it if you don't understand it. Right? And so right now, from today, hearing this enables you to start asking better questions about it. All right, let's go into the third thing that I said we're going to talk about, because this is really, really good. This is the income versus wealth gap, right? And here's the thing that explains why so many women in particular who are high earning still feel financially uncertain, unstable. And it's because income and wealth are not the same thing. Income and wealth are not the same thing. Income is what comes in. Wealth is what stays. Income is your paycheck. It's cash flow. It comes in, and if you're not intentional, it goes right back out. But wealth is what you own that grows over time, even when you're not working. Those are your investments. That's your portfolio. Those are the assets that compound and appreciate. Wealth is what you keep, grow, and eventually pass on. So I have clients who are earning $120,000 a year with almost no net worth, nothing invested outside of a barely touched 401k. So technically, these folks are high income, right? But practically and financially, they're really fragile. And I also have clients who are making $80,000 who are quietly and consistently building real wealth because they have a strategy, you see? So these people are putting the same hours in the day. They may have the similar cost of living, but they have completely different financial positions. And it's not because of income. It's because of what they do with the income. And look, this is the piece that I want you to really hear. Every year that you earn without investing is a year of compounding that you're not getting back. Every year that you're not investing is a year of compounding that you're not getting back. Now, some of you are like, what the hell is compounding? Compounding is where your money earns returns. So your money earns money, called returns, and then those returns earn returns. And then those returns earn returns. It's like this magic building that occurs with your money. And it's one of the most powerful forces in personal finance, right? But it requires time. It requires for you to get started, and it requires time. So the longer you wait, the more runway that you use up. So I want you to understand that income is important because income gives you options. But wealth comes from investing, and investing enables you to use those options. Does that make sense? Income gives you options, but when you build wealth, you're able to actually act upon those options. And the gap closes between income and wealth once you start becoming really intentional. And the intentionality doesn't require these drastic changes, right? It doesn't require you to start, going on these rice and beans and living like you're broke. The intentionality is about small, strategic, consistent moves. That's what closes the gap. That's what makes the difference. So when you hear these things, this is why I made this the last thing that I wanted to talk about. When you hear about, the income versus wealth gap and the 401k mystery, and you hear about the W-2 trap, then most people are like, well, it's too late for me. Like they just immediately shut down. And I want you to know that no, it is not too late. It is not too late for you to start investing. It's not too late for you to start looking at your money this way or looking at your money better. And I'm not just giving you reassurance. I'm telling you that we've been taught that you should only look at your financial progress by age, right? You see those things. You should have X saved by 40 and Y saved by 50 and this amount by 60. And when you look at those benchmarks and you don't hit them, then you're like, well, I've already failed. It's over. I have, before I've even started, I'm already behind, and why should I bother? But I don't want you to look at those money ages and where you should be. I want to offer you this concept that you should look at your money stage, and not by age brackets, but by actual stages. So are you in the awareness stage? Right? Just starting to understand how money works. Are you in the foundation stage where you're building the structures that make everything else possible? Are you in the growth stage where you're actively building wealth? Or maybe you're in the legacy stage where you're thinking about what you're going to leave behind. These don't apply to a specific decade, and they don't happen in a specific decade. They're a progression that can happen at any age, right? The moment you identify your actual stage, not your age, but your stage, you stop measuring yourself against someone else's timeline and you start building your own. You start taking the steps in your own journey. Listen, I had a client who was in her early 70s who came to me who was convinced that, okay, it's over. She's missed every single opportunity. She'd always been in debt. She never had anything organized with her finances. She didn't have any investments. She had some savings, but that was it. But we built her a portfolio together, and we made intentional decisions with what she had. And now within a few years, her money is finally working for her in a way that it never had been before. And of course, just like anything else, she said, I wish I had known this 30 years ago, but who cares? She knew it now. She knows it right now. When she came to me, she learned, and now look at where she is. And now she has enough to start and to keep growing. Now, that's not to say that the women on the other end who are in their 20s or 30s, you don't have all the time in the world. I'm not telling you to sit there and ignore this stuff. Time is the one asset that's truly finite. So, if you're 28 and you start now with a modest monthly investment, you'll have decades of compounding ahead of you. So I wouldn't say to squander that opportunity. I think that's still available to you. But I want you to understand, and I want everyone to understand, that it is the stage that you're in that matters most. So don't feel defeated by how old you are and those charts and those benchmarks. Having a strategy at 40 or 60 is better than having no strategy at 20. Because that same 20-year-old can spend the next 40 years without a strategy. So it doesn't matter your age. Let's focus on the stage. And by the way, for everyone, irrespective of where you are, the stage that you're at, you do not need a financial advisor to start. Okay. You also don't need a ton of money to start. Like I say all the time, you can start with $1. And you don't need to understand everything perfectly before you take that first step, because financial literacy is a skill. It can be learned. You just need enough to understand how to take that next move. And it's that next move that will change everything for you. So I don't want you to continue asking if it's too late. I want you to ask, what stage am I in? And what's the next move that I need to take? All right. Let me bring this all together for you, because I want to go over everything that we talked about. I want to make sure that it's all gelling for you. Okay? So we talked about the W-2 trap, and we know that a good salary is not a wealth building strategy, right? Income is what you earn. Great. You earn a good income. Excellent. But net worth is what you've built. And you build it by being intentional with what you have, not by earning more. That's why I think it's so important for me to tell most people, you don't have to go out and get a side hustle. You don't have to go out and make more money. You have the money. I know you do. You have to be intentional about what you're doing with it. Second thing we talked about was that 401k mystery. Most of you have an account that you don't fully understand. And I want you to know that your default investment is not necessarily the one for you. I want you to be able to know your fees. I want you to know that the employer match is the floor, not the ceiling. And it is definitely not the finish line in your journey. And so we've got to take the steps to understand what's going on with our 401ks. We also talked about the income versus wealth gap. Two women can earn the exact same salary and end up in completely different financial positions 10 years from now. It's the strategy that closes that gap. Waiting on the sidelines only makes that gap wider. And finally, we talked about the money stage versus the age. It is not too late. I cannot stress this enough. It has never been about how old you are. It's always been about where you are in your journey and what's the next move you need to make. So if you've been listening this long, I want you to really understand you haven't made any mistakes. You just didn't have a strategy yet, and now you can make a change. And honestly, if you are ready to go deeper, and if today made you think about your accounts and your numbers and your gap, I want to see you on March 26th. The free live training, How to Build an Investment Portfolio Without a Financial Advisor or Living Like You're Broke, is going to be held on Thursday, March 26th at 7 p.m. Eastern. It's free. It's live. It's built for exactly the women that I've been talking to today. If you cannot attend live, you must register anyway to get the replay. Let me tell you something about these webinars that I hold. Women come and they ask questions and they get their questions answered. And why is it so good for them to ask questions? Because they have a live person, a real person, somebody who's been where they've been, who gets the life that they want to live and understands them. This is the opportunity to get the answers to your questions. I am going to show you the exact framework I use with my clients. How to understand what your money is actually doing. How to start building or start building better without needing an advisor, without a huge amount of money to get started, and without blowing up your lifestyle. Because nobody wants to live like a pauper. I am not interested in you restricting your lifestyle and no longer doing the things you like and love. I'm actually creating the opportunity for you to make more money so you could do more of those things. I want you to register. Please do. The registration link is going to be in the show notes. And I really hope to see you on March 26th. One more thing. Do me one more favor. If this episode was helpful to you in any way, I want you to share it with a woman in your life who needs to hear it. All right? Be generous. Share this. It's free. And somebody out there that you know may want to hear this information as well. All right. I can't wait to see you on the 26th, but I will be talking to you next Thursday. Take care.